So, Donald Trump used Thursday's presidential debate to perpetuate lies and disinformation over and over and over again while completely failing to answer several of the moderator's questions. Those lies continued when an emboldened Trump took a victory lap at a post-debate rally in Virginia on Friday. Virginia Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan joins us now. She's on the House Armed Services Committee. Welcome, Congresswoman.
Thank you. I'm excited. My black job brought me here.
Your black job brought you here.
You led me, Congresswoman, exactly to where it was that I wanted to go because we were having a field day with that yesterday. I want you to take a listen to what Donald Trump had to say about winning black and Latino voters in Virginia. Here you go.
Every day, more African Americans and Hispanic Americans are joining our movement, and that's one of the major reasons that we're going to win the Commonwealth of Virginia this fall.
What do you say to that pitch being made in the state you represent?
Well, first of all, that is not the way to win votes from the black community in Virginia. I think everybody is focused on his demeaning the black community by saying that only certain jobs are available to them. But more importantly, his record as president was detrimental to the black community. And Joe Biden has been working to improve the mess that he left in office. And I think a majority of black and Latino voters are going to come out, particularly in Virginia, but all across the country, and vote for Joe Biden.
I, Congresswoman, was very struck by the fact that the day after the debate, you had Donald Trump in Virginia with Glenn Youngkin, nonetheless, and many op-eds and articles and columns and pundits opined in the lead-up to Glenn Youngkin's election and the aftermath of how he is the answer to Trump. Like, he could be Republican savior. He's not like Donald Trump. Glenn Youngkin went through great lengths to try to keep Donald Trump at arm's length, and now it seems like he's right up there with them, lock and step. Like, what did you make of the seemingly about face from the governor on his stance of the former president? Well, it's clear that Glenn Youngkin is not a very good governor. He spent his entire administration so far trying to run for president first. Now that he has no accomplishments to show for his time in office, he's looking for the next job, I guess, as vice president. But I think that that's not going to happen.
I want to throw some numbers at you because I think right now we're in a forced dynamic space because of how the president performed on Thursday. A lot of people are opining and pushing out narratives around what Joe Biden is doing or should do. So you've got polls that should Biden be replaced from Morning Consult on Friday after the debate. Yes, definitely 36%. Yes, probably 24%. So that's 60% of voters that they polled saying, yeah, he should go. Then you have another poll of possible Democratic candidates from Morning Consult, same poll. If Joe Biden were to be replaced as the Democratic nominee, who should take his place? Kamala Harris, 30%, Gavin Newsom, 20%, Pete Buttigieg, 9%. I don't even like having this conversation because I think it's unnecessary relative to Donald Trump, and no one seems to be pressing him or putting any pressure on him to step out. But Joe Biden now has, because of that one night, there seems to be this galvanizing force to sort of move him aside. And I asked Jonathan Allen, who was just here, about is anyone accounting for the political consequences of that? Because there are real political consequences that come from that action. Everyone thinks this is going to be a nice, neat package. It won't be. It is going to be a hot mess for a lot of reasons. How are you sitting there looking at the potential to take the House back, possibly hold the Senate, all right, because there are Senate races that were once favoring Republicans that are now a little bit iffy. How rank-and-file Democratic candidates like yourself running for re-election, looking at all of this in the context of your own races and the potential mess that could come?
Look, the only path forward is to continue with President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, not only on the ballot, but in the White House. And I think one debate performance does not negate 3 years of the most consequential presidency in my memory that brought us out of the ditch that Donald Trump's administration put us in, that has made record investments in climate change, that is focused on the middle class. Look, all of this chatter is distracting from the fact that Donald Trump has no plan for the middle class, that he brags about the fact that he's the architect of the fall of Roe, and it's had devastating consequences for women across this country, that he is going to be a dictator who goes after his political enemies for retribution from day one, and is distracting from the fact that Trump-appointed lawyers, now for the third time in less than 2 years, have set aside decades-old precedent to remake this country in a MAGA image. To me, that is what Democrats and independents and moderate Republicans should be talking about and should be focused on making sure we do everything within our power to re-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and send Donald Trump into retirement for good.
There you go.
Congressman, I would layer on to that on Friday you had Biden allies hitting Donald Trump on outreach to veterans ahead of that rally in Virginia. Quote, no one is surprised that Donald Trump closed the RNC's Veterans Outreach Center after his long history of disrespecting our troops, from slashing veterans' benefits to calling veterans suckers and losers. Terrence Sims, an Iraq War veteran from Virginia, chair of the DNC's Veterans and Military Family Council, said in a statement. This used to be an issue that Republicans ran on, right? Respect for our troops, and now they are propping up a candidate who has shown nothing but disrespect to our brave men and women who've served.
Well, I would say the Republicans have been paying lip service to honoring our veterans. But when you look at their voting record, that in the House, at least, they voted to cut veteran services. And even for our active duty military personnel, they're not focusing on meeting their quality of life issues or making sure, Donald Trump ridiculed the president for focusing on climate change. And yet he was not very far from the one place where we have the largest naval base in the world that is facing sea level rise at a fastest rate on the East Coast. And so I think it's just ridiculous that Trump would try to reach out to veterans and pay lip service when his actions and his own rhetoric shows that he doesn't care about veterans.
Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan of Virginia, thank you so much, Congresswoman, for being with us.
Thank you.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.